Cricket.ao. It's a website. It's a podcast.
Pete, it's a way of life. It's Gideon Haig over here.
And Peter Lawler over here.
And Gaz, well, Gaz didn't pop by today, but we're thinking of him. And welcome to Cricket.ao, your independent cricket podcast, live from St George's National Stadium, where Australia are 254 runs ahead with 3 second innings wickets in hand. Steve Smith makes all the difference, doesn't he, Pete? Just to your general sense of equilibrium and well-being?
Yes, he does, doesn't he? He's just a class above. It's a reassuring sight out there. I think when he was out there batting with Cameron Green, I thought it was kind of like when Dad's with the learner driver. You know? Not Mum, not in our case anyway, because I was a bit nervous. But I actually thought it's probably a good experience for Green to be out there batting with Smith in conditions like this. But this is an absolutely fascinating Test match.
It really is.
I arrived this morning with the game in the balance. I thought. I'm sitting here tonight and I'm thinking, well, it's possibly still in the balance. And while I suggested it probably favours Australia, who are 254 runs ahead with 3 wickets in hand, I don't say that with any confidence, but I will say that it's been 3 days of great cricket. Just watching batters struggle to survive. The wicket has challenged them at all turns. I keep hearing these reports from England of, people making runs like billionaires making money in Trump's America. And while they must be great things to watch, I'm really enjoying this. And I think this match, the highest score so far is that 72, isn't it? 75, from Brandon King, which we liked so much yesterday. Yeah.
It's the highest score in the bloody series so far. It's been so tight. Yeah. It's been such a bowler series. Which is not to say that batting conditions have not fluctuated. There have been periods where batting's actually looked pretty straightforward, but you've never felt completely in, have you? And the wickets have tended to fall in bunches.
No.
Smith and Green added 93 and 153 balls today, and that was the way that it looked, was the way that it sounded, wasn't it? Every run was carved from marble.
Yeah, very few assertive shots. I mean, Smith played a couple of cracking drives off Shamar Joseph, straight back past him, the one through extra cover. The second one was actually delightful, but boundaries were few and far between. And I think what really highlights how difficult it was to bat today, Gideon, was, and I've got some stats here, that when you said after Green was dismissed, and we'll run through the order of things later, Travis Head raced to 31 from 29 deliveries. From his next 31 deliveries, he scored 8 runs.
Yeah,
there were times where it just looked really difficult to score. And perhaps credit to the bowlers and to the West Indies fielders. But when Smith and Head came together, I thought, okay, we're away here. Australia were going to run away with this game. But the West Indies managed to corral the conditions and just drag them back in a little bit. Hi, Graham. You're making a special guest appearance.
Hi, Graham. How you going?
There's Graham.
There's not Gaz.
Hello, boys.
Hello, Graham. Graham Davis, one of the great cricket reporters.
Ask him where Gaz is.
Come on. Look, fascinating day watching Cameron Green.
Yes.
I arrived to the ground early as usual because again, somebody stopped, picked me up, brought me to the ground. It's just such a weird place.
Yeah.
I allow myself an hour to get to the ground because I'm some distance from it. And every day I'm there in an instant, and I'm there very early. When I arrived, the covers were down. The nets were deconstructed because they're pretty much, there's some makeshift nets out the back here. And the Aussies were just sitting around. But then the sun, because it was raining, the sun came out and Cameron Green emerged in his whites, ready to go. That's what I said in the copy today. Like my son used to sort of put on his footy gear on Friday night, ready for Saturday's game. I reckon Greenie had done that. And he went out the nets as they were sort of winching the second net up and still pulling the covers off. He was in there with Divenuto, having a few throwdowns. And then I noted after lunch, which he was still there at lunch, he was out standing on the boundary by himself, just waiting. The West Indies was still warming up. Smith was still at the dessert bar, finishing off his lunch. Yeah. And he stood there for 5 minutes or so, ready, bat in hand.
Right.
Was an interesting innings. He made a half century, 52 from 123 deliveries. Didn't always look great, but nobody did. Smith aside, perhaps. No, even Smith didn't look great the whole time on that wicket, but he found a way to get through. And I think that was a really important innings. It was really important for Australia, and it's really important for Green too. His frustration at getting out on 52, he brought up the half century with a magnificent straight boundary, I think again from Shamar Joseph. Don't hold me to that.
Yeah,
it was, of course, because
got him out
the next delivery. Yeah. But when he got out, he threw his bat to the ground in frustration. You don't often see that in cricket.
He sort of dropped it, didn't he? He sort of slapped it in his hand and then he dropped it on the ground.
There was a bit of a hissy, I reckon. I was bordering on racket abuse.
Well, when he got the 50, he gave it the fist pump.
Yeah.
He thought, I'm here. And it only takes one ball, doesn't it?
It only takes one ball. And on this wicket, the cut shot is a precarious shot here. It's a risky shot because balls are shooting low quite regularly. And I suspect that one kept a little low on him, got the undercarriage of his bat.
Of course, it doesn't take much to keep low to Cameron Green. Although Cameron Green is average height for everybody else. Look, he could have been our first ball last night. That one that spat just fell short of the slips, but them's the breaks.
Well, the same thing happened with Adam Gilchrist in that famous innings at Perth, didn't it? Could have been out first delivery, and people were starting to question his career at that point.
His control percentage was low today, but that's probably a sign that it was kind of you were never quite in at any stage. We shouldn't forget that, he's batting there not because we think he's the best number 3 around, but because it's the available spot in that top 6, because every other spot is booked. Smith wants to bat at 4. Head wants to bat at 5. They're best disposed at 4 and 5. Webster's made a great fist of number 6. He's not an opener, so he bats at 3. So he's got the training wheels on, and he's got the L plates on, as you said, and fortunately had Steve Smith at his elbow today.
And I don't think he's naturally disposed to number 3, Gideon. No. He's been a slow starter throughout his Test career, hasn't he? He is only, he reminds me to some degree of Shaun Marsh. Shaun Marsh was like that big water bird that sort of struggles to get lift off. But when Shaun Marsh got lift off, he was magnificent in full flight.
To watch.
We've rarely seen Green in full flight, but once he does get going, he's pretty impressive to watch, and he can really take opposition attacks apart. So it's not really what you want from a number 3 when it's probably one of the more difficult. It can often be the more difficult time to bat, particularly if you've got openers like Australia do at the moment. But we won't go back there. Let's not reverse back over those bodies.
Yeah,
Gideon.
There's plenty of time. We can do them slowly. Look, I mean, I thought at times today the West Indies didn't quite do themselves.
Yeah,
they let pressure go at various stages. I didn't think Shamar Joseph, despite getting a couple of wickets, had a great day.
No,
Alzari's probably been a bit below par. Greaves actually probably bowled as well today as anyone. I thought it was actually quite clever the way, Smith came down the wicket, smashed him over the top. So keeper comes up and, Smith gets caught in the crease, gets LB. Don't know why.
It was a classic. It was a fantastic straight one, wasn't it? Yeah. One right out of the manual, that one.
Yeah.
Bring the keeper up, keep the batsman on the crease. Good decision too by an umpire.
Very good decision.
By an umpire who got a lot of criticism when working the television in the first Test.
Yep. So then Greaves gets Webster caught at the solitary slip, probably a bit unlucky there, but by that stage, Head and Carey come together. They do that Head and Carey thing. Runs are rubies on this surface. Warracan might have been useful today, even though it's a day 3 pitch. And I thought maybe West Indies started to look a little bit one-dimensional.
Yeah. They did, but again, they struck back, didn't they? They got head. So, late in the day. And look, and that dismissal of head, it's reminiscent of what happened to, Pat Cummins in the previous test, in the second innings of the previous test. It just hinted at, again, I mean, not that we needed to know it, that it's going to be really difficult to bat in the fourth innings of this match.
Yeah. I think someone in the comments in the chat room was saying that, Head was showing a lot of the stumps today, wasn't he? And, he's staying leg side of the ball, and that method is kind of hard to succeed with on a surface like this, where the stumps at best are constantly under threat. But look, he's done the job. Carey's still there. I think, notwithstanding that you think the test match is in the balance, I reckon with this flaky West Indian batting unit, I reckon Australia's already got enough, but we shall see. Anyway, Australia with Smith is vastly superior to Australia without Smith. That's my takeaway from today.
It was, and it was a wonderful innings from a guy who announced before the summer that he's found his hands and hasn't lost them, despite having one of the fingers ruptured and wearing a
got one on the fingers straight up today, didn't he?
Did he?
First ball hit him on the finger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that's always going to happen, isn't it? It's always going to happen.
We talk about the low bounce here, but it also has some really spicy bounces as well. Yeah. But he looked fantastic, and he certainly deserved 100. I thought the way he batted. He's come back. He's as good as he used to be, Stephen Smith, after some years in the wilderness. And I think we were all a bit worried that he was fading. He's not fading anymore.
Well, you got the feeling, didn't you, at stages that he was looking for the new challenge? That he'd just become maybe a little bit jaded. And that was what the move to the top of the order was all about, something to kind of stimulate his competitive juices. But you got the feeling last summer in Australia that he'd actually started to really enjoy batting again. Yeah, like he was pushing at the frontiers of batting. He was playing shots that you hadn't seen for years, some that you'd never actually seen. He's prepared to take on the challenge. He got caught here in the first innings, didn't he? Playing a hook shot, which probably wasn't quite there, and maybe a few years ago he wouldn't have played that shot, but he's prepared to take it on now and prepared to run that risk. So it'll be a different Smith over the next few years. It won't be the Smith that we became used to, but that will keep it fresh for him. That will keep him stimulated. That will keep him engaged.
I really enjoyed the way Smith and Green batted in that first session, while boundaries were difficult to come by, and the outfield here it was quite slow because there's a fair bit of rain. But they found the gaps, and at times Chase had 2 to 3 men back for the hook. Yep. And because Smith is such a dangerous batsman and can score in so many areas, he had to drop somebody back, fly slip back as well. So there were, they looked for the singles and the twos, and they did it really well. And I think it would be instructive for Green, even though he's not that wet behind the ears. He just kind of looks wet behind the ears, doesn't he? Just as going back to that earlier point of batting with Smith out there in those conditions, I hope I think that's a good experience for Green, and I hope he learns from it.
Yeah. Australia played with a black armband today, Pete. I think that was for Gordon Rorke. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Which you alerted me to last night. Gordon Rorke, Australian cricketer from the 1950s and 60s. Played 5 test matches. The prototype of the giant fast bowler, because he was 6'5" at a period when, cricketers were just smaller. People were smaller, but he's huge. If you look at footage of him, he looks like a player from the modern era because he's so enormous. He's one of the few from that era who could look Cameron Green in the eye. I interviewed him for the summer game. Be 30 years ago now at his place in Newport. He was a cracking bloke, a really, really lovely man, very modest, down to earth. He told me that, I said at the end of the interview, so have you got any sort of souvenirs of your career? Have you got any mementos? He said, well, I've got this stump from my first test match, but it's not looking in great shape because we used to use it to stir the nappies. Remember the nappies when you had nappies, cloth nappies that you used to stir them with the sanitary liquid? Anyway, that was the use that he made the great souvenir of his career for. He had a terrible end to his Test cricket. He got sick in Kanpur in 1960. He got
with
hepatitis.
Gavin Stevens, wasn't it? With Gavin Stevens.
Gavin Stevens and Lindsay Klein, they all got sick on that tour, but he lost 3 stone in 10 days with hepatitis. And they were all horribly hungry on that trip because they'd been told that you couldn't eat anything but anything that had been very, very heavily cooked. You couldn't eat anything raw. Gordon said that his mum sent him a Christmas cake, which had to come through customs. And by the time it had been cut into 20 for the entire touring party, there was very, very little of it for him. He was, and, he went to the buffet. He went to the coal buffet. He was starving in Kanpur and overnight he got sick and he never played another Test match. He barely played first-class cricket again.
I think he might have only just returned for one or two, or was it just one season or one game from memory?
He played some first-class cricket afterwards, but he never played another Test match.
He wasn't the same, was he? Rodney, The Gentle Giant, that was that book, wasn't it? That Ronnie Cardwell wrote about him.
Ronald Cardwell, yep.
Yeah. And Stevens wrote a book as well about that.
He did.
In fact, there was a chance that Stevens was going to die, wasn't it? But for the presence of a doctor.
That's what Neil Harvey said to him. You could have made history, Gav. You could have been the first man to die on a cricket tour.
Yeah, that's right. They were rough tours in those days. They were playing on matting too, weren't they?
They were. They played in Pakistan on matting. I think the last Test match was played in matting in Pakistan.
Yeah,
but a cracking tour. Life was very different then. But then again, I don't know, Pete. Sometimes from the sensation that I get from your tour of the West Indies, there are still sort of out of the way places. Not that you're taking your life in your hands, but it's that you do feel still a little bit off the beaten track.
Yeah, you certainly do over here in the Caribbean for sure. Yeah, hurtling around in buses and eating chicken as cooked in sort of petrol bins and drums and. But I'll tell you one thing, Gideon. The cricketers aren't living like that. They're ensconced in a I'm sure is a luxurious resort over by the airport. I haven't seen them and travel by bus and don't get out and aren't eating chicken in the streets and hurtling around in public buses. They're a little risk averse and understandably so. Cricket Australia Cricket Australia's insurers wouldn't like anything happening to their precious players on a tour.
Yeah.
But having said that, look, even in Pakistan these days for the journos, it's pretty chilled. I mean, the hotels are good. Pakistan's a great place to travel. But it sounded like they were on the hippie trail, those boys in those days. And I've done Pakistan on the hippie trail.
How's the crowd been today, Pete? Because today was a Saturday. Did you get any more evidence of local interest, local support?
Oh, look, it's modest, to be honest. No, not a lot of people have come. But look, with due respect, I mean, let's put it into context. This is a 20,000 seat stadium.
Yep.
There are only 115,000 people in this country.
Yep.
So it would take a sixth of the population of this country to fill this stadium. So
yes,
if you look at, treated Sydney just as a country, that would be expecting 500 to 600,000 people rocking up to the game. Pardon my maths, and I'm sure I've got that completely wrong.
The Australian tour groups have increased the population by, I don't know, 7 or 8%.
Yeah, they've been a little better behaved today, but there haven't been any. Well, I don't know what happened to that guy that got. Did I tell you about the guy that got arrested after the first day's play?
I think I read about this. Yeah, tell me more.
Oh yeah, you did a cricket out. Cricket out broke the yarn, mate. Yeah, a few reports of poor behaviour. Apparently, a bunch of sort of entitled yobs took over one of the corporate boxes and when asked to leave, refused on day one.
Right.
As I said, there was a guy climbed the wall and came into the press box the other day because he thought that was the best place to find some shade. They had some sympathy. I think they paid a lot of money to sit in the party stand. The party stand is the only one without a roof on it. So you get beer poured down your throat all day, and you're sitting in it's extremely hot conditions here. It's really steamy. But look, I shouldn't let the behaviour of a handful of excited middle-aged men damage the reputation of the rest of the tour groups, who are all fine people and, all having a good time and sit in the stands and watch the cricket. And I see them out and about in the mornings and at night. And there's a couple, a car that stopped to pick me up this morning, a van just stopped and said, you need a lift. And I looked back and there was 3 Australians. And I said, what, is this your taxi? And they said, no, the bloke just stopped and picked us up. We don't know where we're going. And last night I was with a Cricket Ale subscriber, Nav, down at my hotel, and it's way off the beaten track. Yep. And her taxi didn't show up. And suddenly there was a van there, a number one van, way off its route. And I said, you're a number one van off your route. He said, oh, yeah, we came down here to drop someone off. I said, well, can you take Nav back? He said, yeah, sure. Jumps in the car, goes, it costs $1.25 Australian to get basically the 5 to 6 kilometres from here to where I'm staying. Yeah.
Nice.
It's fun. Yeah. And no chance of catching cholera. No. None at all.
No.
And I had the beach to myself the bay to myself exclusively for about 20 minutes this morning before the Shepmates shopped up. They are ubiquitous, those two.
Yes. Did they interview the dog?
Anywhere without seeing the Shepmates.
Did they interview the dog?
Did you see that clip?
No, I haven't. No.
It's very funny.
Okay.
I wondered what they were doing. They ran out the back of the ground chasing that black dog. They ran down the road. Can we have a word, mate? We just want to know what they thought. You're the mystery substitute fielder. And the dog's running off across the field. So I guess that's a no comment. They were saying. It was actually, they do great comedy, those kids. I've become a big fan of theirs, as you know.
Good to know.
Yeah. I hope Sam and Higos don't get their nose out of joint, who I think have just done a live show in Birmingham and probably due to do their massive show in London, the live show. I think thousands of people have bought tickets to see the grade cricketer.
Well, there's a fair bit going on in Birmingham, isn't there? My word, what a test match. That is just an absolute run fest, isn't it? Just glorious.
Yeah.
So Shubman Gill has achieved the second highest aggregate in a test match. He's made 430 runs, ranking second only to Graham Gooch's legendary 456 at Lords in 1990, 333 and 123. He's become the second batter to make 250-plus scores in a test match. The other one, Alan Border against Pakistan in Lahore in 1980. And he's now one of 9 batters with a century and a double century in a test. And he went close to achieving only twice in first-class cricket history has a batter made 2 double hundreds in a game.
Really?
Can you tell me who they were, Pete?
No, I can't, Gideon. No. Did you tell me?
It's all right. I had to look it up too. Arthur Fagg of Kent.
Oh, of course,
versus
Arthur
Essex
Fagg.
in 1938. And Angelo Pereira, the skipper of Nondescripts, made 201 and 231 against Sinhalese Sports Club in 2019. It's an astonishing feat, isn't it? Double hundreds in a first class game. Still has not been achieved in a test match though. The consolation might be an Indian win here. They've picked up 3 towards the end of the day's play. So England will have an interesting challenge to their vanity on the final day. Are they up to actually playing out a game rather than going all out for victory?
I was talking to Ali Martin, the Guardian's correspondent, this morning about how he was travelling with the test match. And he said, none of us are used to covering 5-day tests. This is hell. I do wonder about those English wickets this summer.
Yes, it's so dry.
I mean, you've probably seen, I can't get into my KO account, so I can't see any of it. Have you been watching any of it? Are they roads?
Super flat.
Yeah.
I mean, England don't have a great attack. I mean, if anything is going to show up the weaknesses in England's attack, it's going to be pitches like this. They don't have that extra bit of pace. There's no, they got a finger spinner. They don't have a wrist spinner. It gets a bit pedestrian after a while. This is why they need Archer. This is why they need Wood for occasions like this, when there's just no alternative, when there's no X factor about their attack. They can look a little bit, a bit run of the mill. So, and Gill is playing, the cricket of his life. No one's asked whether, captaincy is, the sense of responsibility is impairing his effectiveness as a batter. It seems to have enhanced him. This is a guy who averaged 35 when he became captain. I mean, he had tons of blue sky, didn't he? But all of a sudden he's filling all that blue sky.
I reckon if we go back and have a look, there's a few people whose batting has improved remarkably on taking the captaincy.
Yes.
I'd have to check, but I have a feeling that Graham Smith might have done something similar. He was only 22 when he took it on. I have to go and look at that. I'd have to check my memory on that.
Michael Clark's a very good example. Yeah. And frankly, a player should come into the captaincy at their peak as a player, shouldn't they? If we tend to think that, a batter sort of peaks around about 27, 28 through to their early 30s, that's the period when you're captaining your country. So correlation isn't necessarily causation where that's concerned. We're more conscious of the downside. We sense that a player is underperforming because of the dual responsibilities.
Hey, I heard something really exciting today.
Tell me more.
I don't know if it's right. I haven't checked it, but can I just put a rumour out there that I heard?
Yeah.
I'm hearing that 5 out of the next 6, possibly, or could be 6 out of the next 7 Adelaide Test matches will be held in daylight.
Oh. What about the one that's going to be a night test match? Got to do something about that.
You're so glass 1/5 empty. Is that the best news you've ever heard?
From a reputable source?
It's from, I want to say reliable source, but I wouldn't say unreliable either. It's from someone who should know what they're talking about. I'm only hesitant because I haven't checked the details, so please don't hold me to this. Okay. But if this is right, Gideon, oh boy, I'm never hanging up the pen. Look out.
This might keep me in the game a bit longer. Exactly.
Keep me in the game. We might just keep covering Adelaide Test matches for the rest of it. We'll just become exclusively Adelaide Test match correspondents, except for that one night one.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm very happy about that. That would be great. We're looking forward to the Adelaide Test match this year. I've already got my bookings at Aquinas.
And the reason that I heard, again, it's all rumour, is that they're sick of three-day pink ball tests.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
And of course, the Premier over there is on board. He doesn't like them. All the restaurants are on board. Yep. The Exeter Hotel is going to be very excited to see me a bit earlier in the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so much to keep us interested, so much to play for. All right. That's going to be my takeaway for the day. Pete, I'm off to do Offsiders.
What are you going to tell them, Gideon?
I'll probably much the same as I've just said to you, Pete. I might borrow a few of your insights.
Could you maybe advocate for Ross Lyon's dismissal, please?
Okay. All right.
If you wouldn't mind, just in the footy department. Would you get to talk about any footy today?
What I say about football? Okay.
Yeah, well, just say Pete said. Okay. Pete said Ross Lyons should bugger off.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
he's cool. Yeah. St Kilda needs a new coach. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll be watching.
All right. Okay. That's all we've got time for on Cricket et al. Been great to have you with us. We're back tomorrow evening, Pete's time, tomorrow morning, my time. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
Well, it's good night from him.